beauty of being a researcher is the opportunity to build on and grow from the wonderful work that has gone before. This Cultural Heritage of Uzbekistan project is really unique, as Frederick Starr was speaking about. It isn't just about conferences and books and videos. It's about recognizing the creative energies of the people of Uzbekistan and that they should be shared widely among a global audience. That Uzbekistan has much to teach the world. That Uzbekistan benefits by embracing a global perspective on culture. The Uzbek government's commitment to build cultural infrastructure to serve the Uzbek people is an important corollary of this project. U.S. museums and educational institutions must respond positively to this open invitation with international loans and generous joint projects. Through joint scholarship on collections of the Central Asian Bronze Age, of Sogdian, medieval Islamic, Timurid, and later Uzbek arts. Part of the reward of this project will be in international loan programs, which can not only bring the art of Uzbekistan to the rest of the world, but the art of the rest of the world to museums in Uzbekistan. Why is this so important today? A few days ago, I was talking with a colleague of mine at the Committee for Cultural Policy, Dr. Gary Vicon, who for many years was the director of the Walters Museum in Baltimore, quite nearby. We were talking about humanist values, about encouraging critical thinking, on preserving rationality, and inviting all the nations and peoples of the world as contributors to the cultural dialogue. And I have to say, I was despairing just a little bit at the state of the world. And he said, it's like tending a garden. What scholars do is tend a garden of ideas. The nurturing work that a gardener does is also required to keep ideas fresh and blooming, and you don't give up on a garden. The same thoughts in drier political form helped to build policies in the United States in the mid-20th century to encourage the free global circulation of educational, scientific, and cultural materials. And many of the advantages in technology and science and in the arts that we have today are the fruits of those policies. Today, we tend to forget sometimes that those policies weren't just about technological development and innovation. Peace through cultural exchange was the goal of these policies. Peace through cultural exchange is still a really great idea. How many nations in the world are there that you know almost nothing about except their art? And when you know about that art, do you not think better of them? There are three goals in cultural heritage policy that were elucidated by the great legal scholar John Henry Merriman. These are truth, preservation, and access. In the Cultural Heritage of Uzbekistan project, the Uzbek nation has taken great steps towards achieving these three goals through scholarship, conservation, and sharing widely and building virtual museums and libraries. I believe that Uzbekistan will find tremendous advantage for its own cultural institutions and its own public interest by welcoming international participation, the pursuit of knowledge irrespective of borders, rather than demanding, as some short-sighted nations have, the blanket return of objects and the control of ideas. Unfortunately, it's not only foreign governments who use cultural protectionism to prop up regimes, deny minority rights, and promote fear among their people. Today in Washington, D.C., there are organizations lobbying for a narrow nationalist view of heritage and of history, a sort of ghettoization of culture. Not only is that a really bad idea, bad for scholarship and the circulation of ideas, it's bad for business, bad for development, and contrary to the whole history of Central Asian intellectual achievement and the entrepreneurial spirit that made long ago Samarkand the equivalent of the Washington Mall and Wall Street and Broadway rolled into one. Central Asia has had more than its share of world conquerors over the centuries, but its power has not just been political or military. Its greatest power over the centuries has been the impact of its ideas and its art and its mathematical and scientific discoveries around the world. This project symbolizes that spirit. By nurturing intellectual achievement, new generations of Uzbek scholars will gain world renown. New generations of Uzbek students will become great scholars. Pride in the nation will be pride in the sharing of both ideas and objects, and the rest of the world must reciprocate by sharing back again. It was a great honor, Gvida, to have the opportunity to write the book on your collection with my co-author, Andrew Hale. Back in 1997, we were able to introduce a much wider world to the beauty and excitement of Central Asian Icát. But my most rewarding moment actually came about a decade later, when Andrew and I were able to work with a young Uzbek scholar, Banafsha Nadir, on a book on Uzbek embroidery in the nomadic tradition. Banafsha was from the first generation of Uzbek students able to connect to Western as well as to Soviet scholarship. She had far better language skills and, most important, close ties to the Kungrat community. If she wanted to know about the way things were 50 years ago, she could not only read all the sources, she could ask her grandmother. She was a very lovely young woman and the soul of courtesy, but she humbled us from time to time. I felt so proud, so pleased to be passing the baton to a younger scholar who was typical of other young Uzbek scholars, and I know that this project will inspire many more. So I thank you all for providing a firm foundation for a brilliant cultural future, as much as for honoring Uzbekistan's great cultural past. It's an honor to work together to tend this garden of ideas. Thank you.